Hello, and welcome to our webinar, Identifying Gifted and Talented Students. Our presenter today is Deb Grill, your assessment consultant. We also have Selena Oliver and Elizabeth Shanley from Pearson here with us today, and they'll be monitoring the chat during the presentation. This webinar is being presented in broadcast audio. Please turn up your computer speakers as there's no dial-in options. We're also presenting with closed captioning. Please type your questions, concerns, and/or comments into the Zoom Q&A. Questions in the chat box will not be monitored. With that being said, I will turn it over to Deb. Deb.
Thanks so much, Gannett. Good afternoon and welcome so much, everyone. As Gannett said, my name is Deb Grill. I'm a school psychologist and clinical assessment consultant with Pearson. And today we are going to spend some time looking at some tools that can be helpful in identifying students with gifted and talented needs. As we move through the presentation, I'm going to go ahead and turn my camera off for bandwidth reasons, but please put all your questions in the Q&A, and Selena and Elizabeth are happy to respond as we go. So as I mentioned, I am the clinical assessment consultant for K-12 schools in Massachusetts, as well as 3 additional states. While I was looking at how I could best support my districts, I discovered that Massachusetts is currently looking at how to assist in identifying students with gifted and talented needs. A 2019 report presented to the Massachusetts legislature indicated that Massachusetts is an outlier in that it does not define giftedness and does not have an explicit mandate to identify or serve gifted students. It was also noted that there is a particular discrepancy with some minority groups. The academically advanced specialist teacher license used to prepare teachers to teach gifted students was eliminated in 2017 due to lack of licenses being issued. The report led to the recommendations to define giftedness and measures to assess it, determine the most effective way to collect data on gifted students, and consider the best practices of other states and districts. Currently, the Massachusetts Board of Elementary and Secondary Education hosts a Gifted and Talented Education Advisory Council comprised of parents, educators, content experts, and community representatives. The charge to the council is to identify recommendations for how the department can support districts and schools in addressing the inequities outlined in the 2019 report. The work of the council throughout 2024 was a 4-phase plan, which would result in a definition of giftedness and advanced talent, methods to identify these students, identifying and defining evidence-based supports and research-based practices and strategies to facilitate high levels of achievement for these students, and to identify procedures and methods to document the outcomes. As of the March 2025 meeting, the council is currently working on phase 2 of this plan, determining methods to identify students who currently demonstrate giftedness and advanced talent, methods to identify potential and develop potential talent, and the academic and social emotional needs of the learners. Work by the council is ongoing and developments continue. In today's session, we're going to review 2 Pearson tools that can support the identification of giftedness and advanced talent. As we mentioned in the previous slide, this graphic lays out the advisory council's phased plan. The language you see here was taken directly from the council's meeting notes. Currently, they are in phase 2, which leads to our discussion today. By their words, they are currently working to determine methods to identify students who currently demonstrate giftedness and advanced talent, methods to identify potential and develop potential talent, and these learners' academic and social emotional needs. According to the National Association for Gifted Children, districts typically follow a systematic, multi-phased process for identifying gifted students to find students who need services beyond the general education program. Nomination or identification is the first step. The second is the screening or selection phase, and the third is the placement phase. In the nomination and screening phase, various identification tools should be used to eliminate bias. The Ravens 2 and KBIT 2 revised are objective tools that provide standard scores as part of the screening and selection phase. Commonality among flows for gifted and advanced talent students look something like this. Teachers, parents, or others observe qualities that suggest the student may be gifted and/or of advanced talent. An initial screening is done, either for a group of students or an individual student, which then leads to a more in-depth assessment looking at data from a variety of sources. Once identified as a gifted and/or advanced talented student, appropriate services are provided, after which their effectiveness and impact is evaluated. So let's dig in here. The first tool I want to share with you today is the Ravens 2 progressive matrices. The Ravens 2 is a nonverbal assessment of general cognitive ability, including the ability to formulate new concepts when faced with novel information, extract meaning out of confusion or ambiguity, and think clearly about complex situations and events. Specifically, Raven defines the trait that the progressive matrices measures as eductive ability, which is one of the key components of general intelligence, or G, as identified by Spearman. Eductive ability involves the ability to think clearly and solve complex problems. The qualification level for administering the Ravens 2 is a B, which means individuals with a bachelor's degree in psychology, education, counseling, speech and occupational therapy may administer. In all cases, examiners should receive training in standardized testing procedures, including how to deliver instructions, how to establish and maintain rapport, how to observe test session behavior, and how to score the items. Only individuals who have received appropriate professional training in psychological assessment should interpret the Ravens 2 results. The Ravens 2 items consist of universal geometric shapes that are recognizable with any level of education. The test requires only minimal verbal instruction and no spoken or written responses. These features minimize the impact that language skills and cultural backgrounds may have on the test's performance. The Ravens 2 is suitable for the assessment of a full range of cognitive ability in those who are not language proficient, who have communication-related disabilities, or who are from culturally diverse populations. It is appropriate for ages 4 years, 0 months to 90 years, 11 months, and can be administered using traditional paper format or digital format using Q Global, Pearson's web-based administration, scoring, and reporting platform. Digital testing enhances test security by allowing each examinee to take a unique set of items that are randomly selected from a large item bank. The Ravens 2 was designed to quickly and accurately estimate an individual's general cognitive ability. When used properly, the Ravens 2 is a very effective tool for differentiating between individuals whose cognitive functioning is in the normal range and certain special populations, such as individuals who are gifted or with an intellectual disability. It's also ideal for mass screenings in settings such as elementary and high schools, adult and juvenile correction facilities, military recruiting centers, or employment placement centers. The Ravens 2 provides screening information that is useful for determining the need for a more comprehensive testing. For example, if an examinee's standard scores on the Ravens 2 indicate that she or he may be eligible for special services, a more comprehensive assessment battery using assessment tools such as the KBIT 2 revised can be indicated. The nonverbal nature of the Ravens 2 makes it ideal for those who are not language proficient or who are from culturally diverse populations. An additional application is when reevaluating individuals who previously received a comprehensive evaluation and when time available for retesting is limited. The Ravens 2 progressive matrices have been widely used for more than 70 years in educational, clinical, and occupational practice, as well as in academic research as a nonverbal measure of mental ability. To reduce the assessment's complexity and maintain its legacy, the Ravens 2 combines the previous versions into a single test battery with novel items and contemporary normative information. The purpose of the updated assessment included creating new items which were developed yet retain the underlying cognitive constructs measured by the original, developing the item bank, and increasing test security. As we said, digital administration increases this test security by utilizing the automated test form assembly algorithm, which randomly selects items and assembles a unique test for each examinee. The update also focused on updated norms. Research suggests that outdated norms produce inflated scores on measures of cognitive ability. Cognitive test scores should be based on normative information that is both contemporary and representative of the relevant population. The Ravens 2 normative data were established using a sample collected from August 2016 to August 2017, and it was stratified on key demographic variables according to the October 2015 US Census data. A complete description of the sampling matrix appears in Chapter 3 of the manual. In addition, the Ravens 2 also used an updated inferential norming method, details of which are also available in the manual. In terms of reliability and validity, during standardization, 12 reliability and validity studies were conducted to obtain updated evidence of reliability and validity for the intended use and interpretation of the Ravens 2 assessment results. Evidence of convergent and discriminant validity was provided by correlational studies with the following instruments: the CPM, which is the colored progressive matrices, SPM, standard progressive matrices, APM, advanced progressive matrices, the Naglieri nonverbal ability test, the wide range achievement test, and the Kaufman brief intelligence test, second edition. Additional evidence of clinical validity was provided through mean comparisons using special groups and matched control samples. Detailed descriptions and the results of these studies are presented in Chapter 4 of the manual. Another goal of the second edition was user-friendliness. There are 5 aspects to increasing the Ravens 2 user-friendliness. First, users may choose between the traditional paper or digital administration, depending on their accessibility to the required digital devices and the examinee's familiarity with the testing mode. Second, to meet user demands for simplified test materials, the CPM, SPM, and APM were combined into a single test battery with one streamlined manual and a single test booklet for all ability ranges. For digital formats using Q Global, examinees are automatically assigned appropriate sets of items depending on their age. Third, the test can be administered in a timely manner. If users need a test for quick screening, the digital short form can be administered in about 20 minutes. Administration time for the digital long form, 30 minutes for children aged 4 to 8, and 45 minutes for examinees ages 9 to 90, has been significantly shortened using the new discontinue rule. Applying the discontinue rule also reduces the levels of random guessing, fatigue, and frustration. Fourth, without affecting the test's functionality and clarity, the instructions to the examiner and examinee have been simplified and shortened. Using visual teaching techniques with the digital administration significantly reduce the use of verbal instructions for most of the assessment scenarios. For examinees with extremely low cognitive abilities, extended verbal instructions are available to help them learn the task. Fifth, a practice link is provided to assist examiners in becoming familiar with the new digital test administration. This allows examiners to practice the demonstration and sample items that are presented to the examinees. Finally, the extended age range. Responding to the market's needs, the Ravens 2 has been expanded from 5 years, 3 months to 7 years, 11 months to ages 4 years, 0 months to 90 years, 11 months. Looking at the components of the Ravens 2 kits. These kits include the test manual for both paper and digital administration, the digital long form with millions of unique randomly assembled item sets, the digital short form, again with millions of unique and randomly assembled item sets, and the paper form with fixed item sets in one test booklet, an answer sheet for examinees to input their personal identification information and mark their response choice next to each test item, and scoring template to assist examiners with scoring the test. You can choose to have both the paper form and the digital for greater flexibility. The paper form is parallel to the randomly assembled item sets of the digital long form. Because the paper form has no discontinue rule, its testing time might be slightly longer than the digital long form. Screening results can be scored digitally on Q Global or by hand with a print kit. Scores are reported in ability scores, standard scores, percentile ranks, confidence interval, NCE, STAY9, descriptive classification, and age equivalent. Digital forms do not provide a raw score as the unique item sets are not directly comparable or interpretable. This has been great information about the tool itself, but why is it great for potential gifted and talented screenings? Additional validity evidence is provided based on the results of special group studies. 3 special group studies, intellectually gifted, intellectual disability, and English language learner, were conducted concurrently during the Ravens 2 standardization. For the purposes of our discussion today, we'll be focusing on 2 of those 3. Candidates of the intellectually gifted and English language learner studies were drawn from the general school population. All participants were selected by independent examiners based on specified inclusion criteria. For intellectually gifted, in order to qualify for this study, participants must A, have scored at least 2 standard deviations above the mean on an individually administered comprehensive measure of cognitive ability, such as the WISC-5, and B, be currently receiving services for intellectual giftedness in the school. The table here shows that the current intellectually gifted sample scored significantly higher on the Ravens 2 than the matched control groups, with very large effect sizes. Additional analysis indicates that of children in the current intellectually gifted sample, 62.5%, 45.3%, and 15.6% scored 115, 120, and 130 points or higher on the Ravens 2 digital long form, respectively. In contrast, of the children in the matched control group, only 20.3%, 12.5%, and 1.6% achieved these respective scores. These results are very consistent with those reported by previous research with gifted samples and demonstrate the Ravens 2 validity of assessing individuals who are cognitively gifted and talented. The English language learners. The participants of the English language learners, or ELL, study are individuals who are currently receiving services for limited English proficiency at school, who were identified as an ELL by parent report, or who had a consistent preference to communicate in a language other than English in a variety of contexts, again based on parent report. The table also shows that, on average, individuals in the ELL sample performed slightly higher than the matched control groups on the Ravens 2. However, the mean differences between the two groups are not generally statistically significant, which confirms that the Ravens 2 is suitable for those who are not English language proficient. In addition to the specialized norming, the Ravens 2 provides other advantages over measures of cognitive ability that contribute to its effectiveness as a reliable measure, such as our previously discussed item security, as well as the ease of use. The Ravens 2 is easy to administer and score. Professionals can administer the Ravens 2 with minimal training, and with appropriate training and supervision, and by using the examiner practice link, technicians, paraprofessionals, and others in psychology and education fields can also administer the Ravens 2. This vastly increases the number of individuals in a school building who can administer this assessment. Further, digital administration provides the nonverbal visual teaching aids that should be sufficient for the majority of examinees to learn the task. Previously, we discussed the efficiency where the Ravens 2 provides that quick and reliable measure, and depending on the test form and examinee's age, you're looking at about 20 to 45 minutes for the 48 test items. Further, it can be administered in a group setting or individually, so it can be useful for assessing large numbers of students for whom administering comprehensive test batteries would be time-consuming and costly. Additional advantages include the flexible administration in digital and paper formats, the limited emphasis on language, the large item bank. Unlike most measures of cognitive ability that contain very few forms and fixed item sets, the most advanced feature of the Ravens 2 is that the digital forms are based on a large item bank. Using this large item bank, millions of unique and parallel item sets can be assembled. The item response theory, or IRT, approach used to establish the item bank and the standard form assembly rules ensure that the scores based on each unique item set are comparable, reliable, and valid. This feature significantly enhances the test security. The final advantage, as we previously discussed, is the wider age range the Ravens 2 offers. So now that we've chatted about general screening with the Ravens, let's take a look at the next step in our workflow in identifying students who are gifted and talented. So here we're going to talk about the KBIT 2 revised, which is a brief individually administered test of verbal and nonverbal intelligence, appropriate again for examinees aged 4 to 90. The test is quick and easy to administer and offers a reliable measure of intelligence that can be used in a variety of clinical, educational, vocational, and research settings. Similar to the Ravens 2, the KBIT 2 revised is a qualification level B, so it may be administered and scored by a range of educational backgrounds, provided they first receive appropriate training in standardized testing by qualified personnel. Administration of the assessment takes approximately 20 minutes. The KBIT 2 revised provides continuous measurement for the full age range of 4 to 90 years. Because the same 3 subtests are administered to all ages, not the same items, Examiners can have confidence that the same constructs are being measured when testing children, adolescents, and adults, including when the examinee is tested more than once over their lifetime. Purposes and uses. The KBIT-2 revised is designed for those circumstances in which a brief measure of intelligence will suffice. These may include screening to identify high-risk students as part of a gifted and talented selection process, testing adolescent job applicants to facilitate hiring or placement decisions, rechecking periodically the intellectual status of a child when necessary, obtaining valuable vocational and rehabilitation information, estimating the cognitive functioning of children referred for an assessment. So why is it called revised? The first word you see here is revamp. The verbal knowledge has been revamped in terms of the pictorial art pieces to be more up to date. The next word here is remove. In matrices, we've removed the outdated items and improved the ceiling for gifted identification. The third word you see is revitalize. Riddles has revitalized items and updated sample responses. Here you see the word remote. The test includes norms that are appropriate for both in-person assessment and tele-assessment. And finally, we see revolutionary. With combined norms, the KBIT-2 provides revolutionary new sample methods. The KBIT-2 revised kits also come in both print and digital format. Paper record forms are required for both administration types, but digital scoring is available per usage or by a 1 or 3 year unlimited subscription per user. As we discussed with the Ravens 2, the KBIT-2 revised was specifically normed with gifted and talented groups. All mean difference effect sizes are large. An additional analysis indicated that 60% of examinees identified as intellectually gifted received IQ composite scores of 120 or higher. In contrast, only 7% of examinees in the matched control group achieved scores in this range. Consistent with results of prior studies of individuals identified as intellectually gifted, the mean verbal score was higher than the mean nonverbal score. These results provide strong evidence that the KBIT-2 revised is an instrument capable of screening examinees who may be eligible for educational placement as intellectually gifted. The two-domain composition of the KBIT-2 revised produces an IQ standard score that includes two distinct aspects of intellectual ability, allowing examinees to demonstrate their capabilities across two very different skill areas. The inclusion of two scales, one measuring verbal and crystallized abilities, and the other measuring nonverbal and fluid abilities, facilitates the translation of scores earned on the KBIT-2 revised to scores earned on many current comprehensive general cognitive and intelligence tests. The verbal score comprises two subtests, verbal knowledge and riddles, and measures verbal school-related skills by assessing an individual's word knowledge, range of information, verbal concept formation, and reasoning ability. The nonverbal score, the matrices subtest, measures the ability to solve new problems by assessing an individual's ability to perceive relationships and complete visual analogies. The test takes approximately 15 to 30 minutes to administer and yields those three scores: verbal, nonverbal, and an overall score known as the IQ composite. It is possible to administer only the verbal or nonverbal portions if both cannot be administered validly. Teaching allows for rephrasing of a question, using another language, including sign, using gestures, or applying other brief modifications in the directions to ensure the examinees understand exactly what kind of response is expected of them for each task. The matrix reasoning subtest also provides instructions in Spanish. And as we previously discussed, norms were collected for both in-person and remote administration. Let's take a moment and step beyond the Ravens 2 and the KBIT-2 revised to look at additional assessment solutions. The gifted rating scales are norm-referenced rating scales based on current theories of giftedness and federal and state guidelines regarding the definition of gifted and talented students. Preschool and kindergarten teachers complete the preschool, kindergarten GRSP forms for children between the ages of 4 years, 0 months and 6 years, 11 months. This form of GRSP contains brief scales covering 5 domains: intellectual, academic readiness, motivation, creativity, and artistic talent. Teachers complete 6 brief scales on the school-age GRS-S form to evaluate children between the ages of 6 years, 0 months through 13 years, 11 months, who are in grades 1 through 8. The 6 domains include intellectual, academic, motivation, creativity, leadership, and artistic talent. As many of you know, Pearson is home to multiple gold standard cognitive assessments, including the WISC-5, WIPC-4, newly released WACE-5, JOS-2-NU, and KABC-2-NU, should additional cognitive assessments be deemed appropriate. These tools combined cover ages 2 years, 6 months to 90 years plus. Further, we know that identifying gifted and talented students is not just about cognitive ability. The work sampling system is a criterion-referenced observational assessment with extensive research supporting reliability and validity. This system collects information on the child's work and compares it to grade-specific guidelines in the areas of personal and social development, language and literacy, mathematical thinking, scientific thinking, social studies, the arts, physical development, and health and safety for children in preschool 3 classes through 3rd grade. This observational data provides additional information regarding a child's classroom performance. In addition to our comprehensive cognitive and observational assessments, Pearson also offers tools such as the Behavior Assessment System for Children. We also provide the Beck Youth Inventory 2nd edition and the SSIS SEL. These tools allow for screening and monitoring areas of need related to internalizing behaviors and interpersonal areas of need. We've talked today about a number of available tools in our time together. Did you know that almost all of them are included in our Digital Assessment Library for Schools, or DALS subscription? This subscription provides your district unlimited access to digital components and administration for over 40 assessment tools for one annual fee. This unlimited access includes our Q Global and Q Interactive platforms. The assessments included in the library cover disciplines throughout your school district, including school psychology, speech and language pathology, occupational and physical therapy, early childhood and developmental needs, special education, and others. When new digital Pearson assessments or assessment components are available, they are automatically added to the library. Please reach out to me following this presentation to learn more about the items included here. The QR code on your screen will also take you to our most up-to-date product brochure for the dolls. So let's circle back and revisit the council's definition of their current work phase. What they are looking at right now is determining methods to identify students who currently demonstrate giftedness and advanced talent, methods to identify potential and to develop potential talent, and these learners' academic and social emotional needs. As we've seen, Pearson's offerings contain a robust selection of tools that fit this purpose to ensure our students are provided the instruction, challenge, and support needed to continue to grow and thrive. At this time, I will go ahead and turn my camera back on, and we will take a look at our Q&A. So it looks like Selena and Elizabeth have been on top of it and answered questions as they've come in. Does anyone want to come off mute to ask any additional questions that came up? All right. Well, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. I'm glad that you were able to join us. Please reach out to me, deborah.grill@pearson.com. You can also find us on the website, pearsonassessments.com. Please feel free to reach out with any additional questions about these or any other materials. And Gannett, I will go ahead and hand it back to you.
Alrighty, thank you, Deb. Thank you so much, everybody, for attending. Please be on the lookout. We will be sending the recording in the next week or so, so you can go back and watch, and if you missed anything, you'll be able to find the answers you need. And yeah, that will be it on our end. Thank you, everybody, and have a good afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.